Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome into the Fantasy Roundup for this afternoon, Tuesday, October 24th. I'm your host, Spencer the Guru Urquhart. Alongside me, Gabe Henderson, who is just having to pour one out for his Houston Astros.
Spencer, part of me saw this coming. This is who the Astros have been all season. They've been terrible at home. Um, it's just the Rangers have been the better team all season, and as hard of a pill as that is to swallow, you got to just admit it.
I hear you. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of success in recent seasons for the Stros, so can't complain too much over in the H-Town. So, yeah, better than my Cardinals, that's for sure. But anyway, we'll get into the football here. Let's get to our headlines. Chris Olave. There are a lot of y'all tuning in wondering about Chris Olave. He got arrested last night speeding 70 and a 35 out in Kenner. Was apparently swerving through traffic as well, but no DUI. He was released from jail last night, so it appears that he's in the clear. Suspension unlikely, because as we saw in the offseason, Jordan Addison, Vikings rookie, had a even worse incident, but there was no alcohol involved, and he ended up scot-free. So looking like Olave, he will end up with no suspension from this. Hopefully learns his lesson, though. Don't want to have him slipping up like that in the future. Zach Ertz placed on IR with a quad injury. Cardinals, look, y'all, they're in tank mode. I mean, if this was they're a contender, I bet this wouldn't have happened, but they don't care about winning this year. So Zach Ertz headed to IR. And speaking of that, we'll jump to our last headline here about the NFL questioning the Falcons about Bijan Robinson, about teams being funny about injuries. Bijan Robinson wasn't an injury. It was an illness he had prior to kickoff that was not reported. So us fantasy managers were stuck holding the bag. Freaking cost me in one of my money leagues. Had Bijan in the starting lineup. Ended up a really close game where I lost by like 5 points. If I'd have known freaking Bijan was limited, I'd have, swapped him out. But the NFL obviously knows a lot of their fans are playing fantasy football, so this is something that we'll discuss more in a minute. And then Jerome Ford suffered an ankle sprain. Browns, the young running back, they're likely out 1 to 2 weeks. So, yeah, we'll just get right into it, Gabe. Chris Olave and Bijan Robinson. To me, they're two different reasons why they're in the headlines, but it's definitely both very interesting topics. I guess we'll start with the Olave thing. I know you had put in our group chat last night. How shocked were you to see that? I know I was. I was like, oh, come on, Olave.
I was shocked to see that he was arrested, and then I learned what it was for, and it's like, who hasn't done 70 and a 35 before?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, like, the part that was kind of bad about it was that he was, like, apparently swerving through traffic. So,
Yeah.
if it was just, like, an empty road, he may not even have gotten arrested, but because I think he was swerving that he got popped, but no alcohol involved. So, that really helps. If he'd have gotten a DUI, that may have prompted a suspension, but thankfully that was not the case. So it doesn't look like he's going to be suspended. So, I mean, just wanted to update y'all, but really from a fantasy standpoint, this is a whole lot of nothing. I mean, he should be good to go. The only concern I have, though, is just kind of his connection with Derek Carr. Carr seems to be targeting him frequently, but the connection has not been efficient. Like, I think last week it was 12 targets, only 5 catches. They just don't really seem to be on the same page. And I mean, that's where I'm a little concerned about Olave moving forward.
Yeah, the biggest concern will be how much of his practice time will be taken away doing defensive driving. That's really the headline here.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. He'll probably be able to talk to the courts or whatever to get that worked around his schedule, I would think. So I wouldn't worry about that per se. It's just but yeah, though, I guess, yeah, if he would have to, I mean, I guess every rep's important, so it's like, but I feel like if it's one of those things that they haven't gotten it going, him and Card, and they might just not ever get it going this season. I mean, the chemistry like that takes time to build, and if you don't have it, a lot of times it doesn't click like in the middle of a season. Maybe it will. It was clicking better early. It almost seems like it's gotten worse. I guess that's the reason why I bring it up, is because it just early on Olave was killing it for fantasy. He was a top 10 receiver every week, but lately he's just been kind of still startable, but more of like a low end WR2.
Yeah, but let's be honest, Spencer. The schedule's gotten tougher, or less easy. I'll say. I mean, they opened up with the Titans and the Panthers, and now they're playing some teams that are a little bit better. So that could have something to do with it, or I don't know. But yeah, I definitely agree. His production has gone down. So he's not a wide receiver one, especially not the wide receiver one we all expected him to be at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, for sure. Terry not happy at all with Chris Olave. And I mean, it's like, I mean, yeah, it was bad, but not, I don't, it wasn't that bad. I mean, yeah, he possibly could have, but I don't know, he didn't get in an accident. He just was caught speeding. I mean, it seemed like he was, yeah, it was reckless driving for sure, but it's like he wasn't, I think he was aware of what he was doing. It wasn't like he was intoxicated behind the wheel and just completely out of it or anything. So, yeah, it wasn't the right thing to do, but it also wasn't some extremely terrible thing where it's one of those things. I mean, he's a young guy. He's like, I don't know, like 22, 23 years old. I mean, he made a mistake. I mean, when you're young like that, and I mean, he's a first round pick, got a bag. I mean, several million guaranteed. Like, I mean, things happen. So hopefully he just learns from it. And yeah, I think he'll be fine moving forward.
It's a complete non-story to me. Really, if we were to arrest everyone who's gone 70 on a city street, there would be no traffic in the United States. Put it that way.
For sure. Let's see. Oh, Latino Heat, Hank Trill. Latino Heat in the house. Yes, sir. Yep. They had the highest total in our listener league. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Shout out to Hank Trill. Definitely a big statement there from his team, which is really trending up, along with yours, Gabe, and mine is not going in the right direction, unfortunately. So
yeah, I mean that's a perfect segue into the Bijan thing, because Bijan was in my team, so thankfully I didn't have to rely on him. But I would have been pretty upset if I was in your position. I would have had to lose because they didn't report this.
Right. Yeah, let's get into the Bijan thing before we move on from this slide here, because yeah, Bijan's illness not being reported. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what the NFL is gonna do here, but to me, they should do something, because I mean, they've got to set a precedent here, because if the Falcons get away with this scot-free, then other teams are gonna just start getting away with this, and they're gonna start doing this decoy thing where they could have a stud player, sick or injured and just not report it, to where then like, it just screws people in for gambling purposes, fantasy. I mean, I know the NFL teams don't care about that stuff, but the NFL surely cares about that stuff, because that's bringing a lot of money into the NFL, fantasy football and sports betting. I mean, a lot of people, if it wasn't for that, wouldn't watch the NFL. I know I still would, because I've loved it since I was a kid, but I'm just saying that brings a lot of different eyeballs, a lot of eyeballs that normally wouldn't be that worried about it. So yeah, I think they're going to do something here. I don't think they'll do anything to Bijan per se. This wasn't his fault. I mean, this is the team. So I think though that they will, I'll predict that they lose a 6th round draft pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL does come down hard on the Falcons, because here's the thing. In terms of sports betting purposes, Bijan, all of his bets were going to be void until he got that late fourth quarter carry that went for like 2 or 3 yards. And there was no warning. So they're losing money sports betting wise. And the Falcons already, given Calvin Ridley was an Atlanta Falcon at the time, they don't have the best relationship with the NFL in terms of betting. And then, fantasy purposes also, the NFL's got to kind of be ticked off, because once again, the injury report is there for a reason. And that's why, you see guys like Brian Kelly doing twice a week updates on players because of stuff like this. And I get it, maybe it wasn't intentional, but that late carry, there's something fishy about that. If you don't give him a carry for the entire game and then you give him one there at the end, that's not right. And maybe he wasn't feeling well. Which is fine. It happens. People wake up, they don't feel well. You've got to say something about it.
Right. Well, yeah, we know that's true. I mean, he definitely wasn't feeling well. Arthur Smith,
Yeah.
we get on him about not always making the best decision, but he's not that stupid. I mean, Bijan Robinson has that he's basically the new Ferrari there in that offense. So like they definitely were going to use him if healthy, but yeah, he wasn't. But yeah, I think they're going to do something here though. I definitely think the NFL will and should penalize the Falcons because yeah, I mean you can't be doing that in today's NFL with all the money that's on the line in these games to be doing stuff. You just can't be getting away with stuff like that. So yeah, Bijan will be fine though. Those that were burned by this, don't panic. Bijan Robinson is still a stud. He's still elite. I know he hadn't quite lived up to being a first round pick, but I think he will get a lot better as the year goes on. And I stand by my prediction of Falcons winning the NFC South because I just don't really like the direction the Saints are going. Terry's asking about the Saints here. I think they could turn it around enough to maybe still sneak a wild card because the NFC NFC sucks. Like, I mean, compared to the AFC. So I think maybe the Saints could still win 8 or 9 games, but I can tell you this, they got to win this week. Yeah, you got to beat Gardner Minshew. If you lose to Gardner Minshew and the Colts, then you can kiss your playoff hopes goodbye.
Yep.
And Jim and Thomas will be back Thursday, and then Gabe and I will join them later on to do our big bucks picks. And Terry is fed up, it seems like. So just hang on, Terry. Hang on. It's not time to give up yet. But yeah, if they lose Sunday, it's dire straits for sure. All right, so I guess we'll get into our Q&A here, our first Q&A here on the Fantasy Roundup for those that have trade questions, start sits, waiver wire, whatever you got fantasy football-wise. We always get a lot of questions here on the show. Appreciate all y'all that do so. And I see Brad had one for us. Let's get Brad's question answered here. Speaking of Olave, would you trade K9 and Lockett for Rashad White, Olave, and Marquise Brown? My other running backs are Aaron Jones, Mixon, and Henderson. My other wide receivers are Kupp, Godwin, and London.
No, I wouldn't do that trade.
Who is K9?
Kenneth Walker, I assume.
Okay, I've heard somebody was KW3. I've never heard K9.
I think he's number 9.
Oh, that's his number. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, if that is Ken Walker you're talking about, then yeah, no, I wouldn't do that because, I mean, Olave is kind of trending down. Hollywood Brown. I mean, both of them are pretty good, but, I mean, compared to what you'd be losing by downgrading from Walker to White, yeah, I don't think it's worth doing because then Aaron Jones would be your RB1. He hadn't been very good this year other than that week 1. Mixon, I mean, he's just kind of, I mean, he's all right, but he's not really more than an RB2. So to me, you got to keep Walker. He's your RB1. Yep. And Olave and Hollywood. I mean, your other receivers, I mean, you're not great at receiver, but I mean, Kupp should bounce back. Godwin is okay. And in London, pretty solid. So, yeah, it's a close deal. I'd maybe counter and be like, if you're willing to give me a better running back than Rashad White, I'd consider it. But if all they're willing to give you is Rashad White, then I couldn't swing it.
Yeah, you definitely upgrade at receiver getting Olave and Marquise Brown, especially with Kyler Murray hopefully coming back soon. We'll get into that a little more later, but yeah, it's too big a difference at running back for me. I don't know if Rashad White will be able to keep up his fantasy production, given I think the Buccaneers are only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, and their running game's been bad all year, and yeah, don't hold your breath there, Terry. Jim, that's a stubborn cat, but maybe he'll have to because yeah, the Saints have definitely been struggling there. Freddie has one for us. Thank you, Freddie. Could you rank Brees, Mostert, Saquon, and JT from most value to least rest of season, and would you trade any of them for Bijan? All right, I would rank them 1 Saquon, 2 JT, 3 Brees, 4 Mostert, and I definitely would trade Mostert and Brees for Bijan, maybe even JT. I don't think I'd do Saquon, though. I mean, Saquon is he's an institution. He's their whole offense there for the Giants. So I'd keep Saquon. JT, though, I mean, Zach Moss is still a guy in Indy, so if they're willing to do JT for Bijan, I'd maybe do that. JT's trending up, though, so I'd probably hold him as well. But, I mean, Mostert would be perfect. If you could flip Mostert for Bijan, that would be a big win because Mostert kind of got exposed on Sunday night. I mean, he managed like 40-something yards, but I just feel like when A-Chain comes back, his stock is – he's a guy. If you can still sell him, I'd look to sell him. It's the same thing every year at Raheem Mostert. I feel like he has his moments, but he's never a consistent option all year long.
Yeah, I don't know. That one's tough for me because you've got three guys here who have another guy competing for touches in the backfield long term. Well, arguably two if the Jets get rid of Dalvin Cook. But Raheem Mostert finds the end zone. He's done it. I think he's got 12 touchdowns all season. And he didn't score any the other night. So it's intriguing. It really is. We mentioned Zach Moss still has a role. So, and Devon Achane comes back. So it's really tough. I do agree, Spencer. I think that Saquon is by far the best, and he's probably the only one I wouldn't trade for Bijan. But it's really hard to rank the rest. I would probably say Saquon, Brees, Mostert, JT. But it's tough because I think that if Mostert continues to find the end zone as he did in the first 7 weeks, it really could be a great year for him continued. But it's tough. I also need to see JT get more and more carries as he goes on, which it seems he did the other day. So maybe I'd put him ahead of Mostert. Maybe I agree with you there. I don't know. It's intriguing, but I would trade all of them except for Saquon for Bijan.
Heard that. Yeah, because, Brees is, he's definitely trending up. And, Dalvin Cook could end up shipped out at the trade deadline. Jets don't really seem to need him there at running back. Brees continuing to get more and more carries. So, it doesn't look like we have too many questions so far. So, any more, though, feel free to drop them in here for this Q&A. Well, actually, we'll transition to Listener League. We'll close out with another Q&A. We'll do the Listener League recap, then our waiver pickups, and then any last-minute Q&A questions can be dropped in toward the end of the show. We also have a little fantasy basketball segment for those that like fantasy basketball, NBA tipping off tonight. So we've still got a lot to go here on the Fantasy Roundup, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Make sure to sign up with Caesars if you haven't already. Shout out to them. They're our partners. And subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you haven't already. We say it every week. Make sure to do it if you haven't already. So, all right, let's go over our Listener League here. Hank Trill, Latino Heat, defeats Amanarol Salmon by a pretty wide margin there. Latino Heat tied for first place. Now we've got a 4-way tie for first. Mike also now joining the party, tied for first, taking down Bucktown Rebel Jr. there by a wide margin. The original Saints fan finally gets a dub. Shout out to OSF, defeats Joseph there by a narrow margin. Tough loss there for the Bayou Bandits. And, oh, man, it pains me to say it, but Guru Squad goes down. Tua Infinity did indeed go beyond and took me down 124-101. GG, Gabe. GG.
It was a fun week. Good job, Spencer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And our last two there, the Bucktown Rebel. He's still in the mix. Our defending champion took down Uncle Big Nick. And then Troy, the Bomb Squad, took down William to get back in the mix there at 3-4. So, that was, I don't know, man. My squad just didn't really show out. They've been trending down, unfortunately. I had a lot of bye weeks, though. So that probably had something to do with it. But still, it's just, getting nervous, man. 2 losses in a row. And so now I've got a lot of competition up there. How's it feel to be at the top? I know it's a 4-way tie, but I'm sure it feels good to be tied for the lead.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was a little worried during the noon window when Bijan wasn't doing anything. I thought I might need him, but I got big performances from guys like A.J. Brown. Sorry, Team Latino Heat. Not giving up A.J. Brown. I'm not going to let him go. I'm going to stick with my guys. I'm feeling really good about my team. So unless I get an offer that sweeps me off my feet, I'm staying pat.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah. Hank's always looking to make trades there. And I mean, might have to here. We'll have to bring back the trade segment. Next week's the real life NFL trade deadline. So we'll have some some more trade talk next week on the Fantasy Roundup. Let's get into waivers, though, for this week. Pretty thin week on the waiver wire. I'll start it off. They're just not a whole lot. I even had to cheat this week. Normally, our rule is players rostered under 30% of leagues, but I mean, the tight ends, I mean, it's so ugly. I had to throw. I'll just start off with Dalton Kincaid. He's really the only thing on here that's like a must add, I feel like, because Dawson Knox is now injured for the Bills. I believe he had to go some sort of surgery and go on IR, to where Kincaid, he got heavily involved last week, and I see that continuing because Josh Allen, outside of Stephon Diggs, doesn't really have anything else reliable. Gabe Davis, this continues to disappoint. I feel like
Shocker.
It's just he'll have his big weeks every now and then, but for season-long fantasy, he's not a reliable option. Where Kincaid, I mean, we know the Bills are going to throw it. Josh Allen has a cannon arm. They're going to air it out over there. So I think Kincaid, they spent a first-round pick on this dude. He started off a little slow, but for anyone that dropped him, because he was rostered in over half a league for a while there, he was like 60, 70% roster, but then his slow start caused him to get dropped in a bunch of leagues. And I wish I'd have scooped him up in some of those. I'm going to try to in any leagues that I'm in where he was dropped, because this dude, he's a specimen out there. He's a guy. I remember I said this before the NFL draft. I was really high on Dalton Kincaid. Loved what I saw on film from his Utah days, and so I think he's about to have a big second half here in Buffalo.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I could see that. I texted you when we were going through these waiver wire ads, and I had to ask you, because if you weren't going to use Kincaid, he was definitely going to be mine.
Yeah, you were thinking about cheating too, huh?
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you have to. With
it's ugly. It's ugly. Sometimes you got to make exceptions. So I got a Panthers stack here to show you how ugly it is. Going with the 0-6 Panthers, Bryce Young and Jonathan Mingo. Bryce Young is more of a streaming thing. If you need a QB streamer for this week, he gets the Texans, who have been really impressive on offense, but as you know, Gabe, their defense very much a work in progress. So I'm thinking Bryce Young could have a big week here. Bryce Young, CJ Stroud shootout there potentially. So first two picks of the draft squaring off. And then Jonathan Mingo is someone that's gotten more involved each week there in Carolina. Hadn't had a breakout week yet, but it could be on the cusp, because Terrace Marshall, he's a trade candidate. Adam Thielen can only do so much. I mean, he's off to such a great start, but teams are going to start paying more attention to him. And so someone else is going to have to start stepping up, and I'm thinking that could be Mingo.
Yeah, I think it could be, but I mean, we've been saying the same thing about Mingo for weeks, so I guess we'll just have to see. I don't trust Bryce Young and the Panthers, but if there's a week they're going to break out, it could be against the Texans.
Yeah, it just goes to show how ugly it is. And then Pierre Strong, a sneaky ad here, because fun fact for y'all, when Jerome Ford went out, it wasn't Kareem Hunt that got the majority of the snaps and touches. It was Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong could be a guy in Cleveland, because Kareem Hunt, he's older and he's a goal line pest. I mean, that's the thing nowadays, like with Kareem Hunt. He used to be more like the third down back, the efficiency guy. Now that he's gotten older, he's more of just the move the chains, goal line, bruiser kind of guy. And so with that in mind, I mean, Pierre Strong, if he plays the Jerome Ford role, then he could end up being worth a start. Like, I know he's not really proven, hadn't really done much at the NFL level. It was a disappointment last year with the Patriots as a rookie, but he's a guy that he's a very fast running back, had a lot of talent out of, I believe, South Dakota State. Didn't really play a whole lot of big competition in college, but he was a guy that coming out of the draft was like, he's a project, but if he hits the ceiling, he could be really good. So this is his opportunity, playing on one of the best running offenses in the NFL. And now that Jerome Ford's going to be out the next week or two, this is Strong's chance to maybe leapfrog Kareem Hunt as the number 2 on the depth chart. So to me, it's worth taking a shot on him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Kareem Hunt hasn't lived up to expectations thus far. Really thought he would have a big week last week, but
he had the 2 touchdowns, but if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that's another thing. I got a bone to pick with my buddy in that league where I had Bijan, because I had freaking Bijan, and his RB2, he was down bad. He picks up Kareem Hunt, and Kareem Hunt outscores Bijan. I'm like, come on, bro. Like,
Yeah,
the fantasy blues,
cookie
man.
crumbles, Spencer.
I know, man, because it's like on paper, I should have killed him. Like
Yep.
I think he was in by Mageddon. I think he had Tony Pollard out and some other guys. I was like, oh, I got him. He's bye weeks got him down bad. And I had Ken Walker, Bijan, and Kamara. I was like, there's no way he's gonna beat me. My backfield's loaded because it's a small league, just like me and the homies from back home. It's a smaller league, but like, yeah, oh man, I was so upset. But anyway, I digress. Who you got for your waivers, Gabe?
So, we talk about all the time how there's still some value in bad teams. You had 2 Panthers on yours. I've got 2 Cardinals on mine. Kyler Murray looking to come back soon. Don't know exactly when he'll be back, but rostered in 22% of leagues, people are expecting him back soon. And if you've had struggles at quarterback, if you need a decent backup option, Kyler Murray's shown he can be explosive in fantasy in the last few years, and he's better than your Matthew Staffords, your Mac Joneses who are potentially out there. So I think Kyler Murray definitely an option. The Cardinals might want to try and lose, but I don't think Kyler Murray is going to roll over easily and just say, you know what, I'll let Caleb Williams or whoever it is coming out that we draft take my job. I think he wants to still be a starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, and he's going to play angry, and I'm excited to see what he can show.
Yeah, for sure, man. Because I think they're kind of stuck with him. I think they're tanking, but I think they'll probably just take best available defensive player unless they happen to get first pick. But if I had to guess, the Bears will probably get it between themselves sucking and the Panthers sucking. So. Yeah, and then they'll probably end up trading Justin Fields because they have an extended Fields where they could afford to trade him. Cardinals can't really afford to trade Kyler Murray. Cardinals have so much money tied up in Kyler Murray. So yeah, I think they'll give him a fair shot here in these final few weeks. I think they'll actually let him play. Some people are saying, oh, they'll just shut him down because they don't want to risk something in his contract. I think it's if he gets re-injured, then his 2025 salary becomes fully guaranteed. But it's like, I mean, you paid this man to be your guy. I mean, you got to stick with it. So I think they're going to, since they extended him, I think they're going to give him his run. And then, Trey McBride with Zach Ertz out could be a guy as well.
Yeah, Zach Ertz he's been getting consistent targets, and that's my biggest thing at tight end. So maybe Trey McBride can step up. We saw him step up toward the end of last season. He's gotten better as the season's gone on here. So, slim pickings at tight end on the waiver wire, but, it's worth giving Trey McBride a shot if you need a tight end.
Yep. There's not much there, but he'll probably get some targets. So, yeah, keep an eye on it. Probably was just a second tight end if you can afford to roster one, So, yeah, keep an eye on that. And then you got Darrell Henderson there, the new Rams starter. I had Zach Evans last week, got burned by that because I thought he would be ready, but apparently he wasn't. He was a late round rookie, so yes, he wasn't ready to handle the workload there. Because it was Darrell Henderson. It was a throwback.
Yeah, you know what? Here's what's going to happen, Spencer. Now that I put Darrell Henderson here, Zach Evans is going to get all the carries next week.
The Rams are so frustrating.
Yeah, the Rams, especially in the backfield. I mean, how many times over the last few years have we been tricked into the Darrell Henderson pickup?
Yep, and the Cam Akers.
This is the first time, yeah. He said this is the first time where it might actually be legitimate, where, with Kyron Williams out and Zach Evans not getting the shot, he could be getting – he got a run of the carries last week. I think he almost had 20, if I recall correctly. And I think he'll keep getting his shot. He performed well. So if you need a short-term running back option, Darrell Henderson could be your guy. And then I'll tell you my shock, Spencer. When I saw that Kendrick Bourne was only rostered in 24% of leagues, my jaw about hit the floor because he has been consistently very good this season in a terrible Patriots offense. So, I mean, he's definitely someone that should be rostered in over 30% of leagues. I'm amazed he wasn't.
Yeah, he's I hate the Patriots offense, so I'm not gonna, be like super thrilled about getting him, but it's one of those things where if you need a receiver, he's about the best there is out there because there simply just aren't many reliable receivers out there. And I mean, he has gotten a reliable source of targets from Mac Jones. Yeah, it's an ugly offense, but even in ugly offenses, there's usually one or two guys that are fantasy relevant. So Can't
Yeah, I mean,
argue
look
with
at
it too
Adam
much.
Thielen in Carolina. He's a
Yeah.
reliable. I'm not saying Kendrick Bourne's been as good as him. He hasn't even come close. But Kendrick Bourne, is a number one receiver. He's still got some value in fantasy. You never want to let number one receivers on any team go unrostered just because of the potential target share.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. And before we get to our final Q&A, those was our week 8 waiver wire ads. These are Gabe's right there. These 4, these are mine right here. It's not a whole lot, but if you're in these deeper leagues, these super competitive leagues, you got to do what you got to do. So make sure to get your waiver claims in this afternoon or this evening whenever you get a chance. But let's talk fantasy basketball, y'all, just real quick. I know most of y'all in here for football, but just wanted to show y'all this fantasy basketball team I cooked up last night. It's a league I do every year with some buddies, 10-team head-to-head points. Got stuck with the 10th pick, but I feel like I managed it pretty good there. I got Anthony Edwards and Domantas Sabonis with back-to-back picks, both the rising stars in the league. Edwards, I'm hoping, can end up a top 5 player this year. Really excited about what he can do. Then got a couple other rising stars there. Paolo Banchero, Josh Giddey. Pretty giddy about getting Josh Giddey there, the Australian point guard there for the Thunder, thinking he's going to have a big year. And then the rest of the team, went with a lot of younger guys. Got the big man for the Rockets, Devin Vassell with the Spurs, but then got some veterans later. Got Jamal Murray and Drew Holiday, a couple of solid point guards, and Tobias Harris, Michael Porter, a couple of veteran forwards, and Nurk Alert, Mark Williams, some bigs that have upside, Kelly Olynyk, and Markelle Fultz, one of the most slept on players, I feel like, being that, he was a former first pick. I know he'll never probably live up to that hype, but the Magic are a team that's on the rise. So I was pretty happy with this team. Obviously you could always nitpick, but I feel like I did pretty good there considering I didn't really have much time to do fantasy basketball research.
Yeah, no, I really like that team. You got a lot of potential, a lot of young guys. You've got guaranteed stats with Josh Giddey and Anthony Edwards. I think is definitely a guy that could lead this team, as well as Jamal Murray. So I like that team a lot.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I felt pretty good about it. I felt like even though I got 10th pick, Anthony Edwards was like the 7th rated player. I couldn't believe he fell into my lap at pick 10. But before we go, let's get this final Q&A knocked out, because I know a lot of y'all have been dropping these questions in here. We'll get Freddie's answered first. He had another one for us. Would you trade St. Brown, Myers, and either Mostert? I guess it's either Mostert or JT for A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams. I've also got Saquon, Brees, Tyreek, Mike Evans, and Hopkins.
That's tough.
I don't think I would, honestly, because you're having to give up the running back, too. Jacoby Myers has been just as good as Devontae Adams this year. And A.J. Brown, St. Brown's really good, but A.J. Brown's been a little better. And then, I don't do that, bro. You're getting ripped off.
Yeah, I think long-term, A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams will both have better seasons than Amon-Ra and Jacoby Myers, but it's not worth giving up that running back depth there. It's really not. You need a good third running back, and you've got a great third option. St. Brown, excellent number 2 option behind Tyreek. Myers has performed well, so you got 4. I wouldn't do this. I think it's tinkering just to tinker.
Right, and traded Pickens and Downs for Damian Pierce and Zay Flowers, needed running back depth. Did I take an L? No, that's a good deal, because I know Pickens and Downs had good weeks last week, but Zay Flowers, I'd say, is just as good as both of them, maybe even better. And then Pierce, I think, is still in a good spot with the Texans, still the lead runner. So no, that was a good trade. I feel like if you needed running back depth.
Yeah, if you need a running back depth, you're getting a guy in Dameon Pierce, so I think it's going to really improve after the bye week. He might not see as heavy a target or a carry share, but I think he'll score more touchdowns in the second half of the season, especially with the Texans' offensive line getting healthy. And then I agree with Spencer. I think Zay Flowers is the best receiver in this deal, especially with Deontay Johnson coming back soon and taking Pickens' targets.
Right. Yeah, he was back last week, but Pickens still 8. But yeah, there'll probably be weeks where Deontay ends up getting more. And had an NBA draft too. Got Wimby in the 5th. Holy smokes, that's a steal. He went in the 2nd in mine, my buddy Josh took him super high. I was just thinking I'd maybe get him in the 3rd or 4th round, but no, Victor Wembanyama, generational talent. So enjoy that, bro. 5th round, yeah. Even if he doesn't hit his ceiling, that's still a value.
It's my bold prediction. Give me Chet Holmgren over Wembanyama Rookie of the Year.
Woo! Wait, Jack Holmgren, they're still counting him as a rookie because he didn't play last year?
Yeah, he didn't play at all last year.
Okay, so he's rookie. He's still considered a rookie?
Yep. I think he's sitting at 3-1 right now.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. Yeah, I thought about him too, but he also got a lot of these like young players with hype. I think he went in like the 4th, so it's like
that's a little too high for me, but I think he'll be good.
Yeah, you're not getting those guys at a value, too much hype. But all right, so his question here for football. I have Laporta looking to upgrade flex, so I traded Goddard for Olave. Thoughts? Oh, that's a steal, bro. What a freaking deal. Goddard's been good, but not that good for Olave. I mean, and you got Laporta, man. You won big time, bro. And you got Wimby. Damn, I don't know. You might you might have to check on your friends there. They might be. I don't know what you're getting some good deals there.
Yeah, for sure. Especially considering Goddard's looking up, so I think you sold really high, especially with Olave trending down. I think Olave is only going to bounce back, and Goddard's been good, but he's not been good enough to start over Laporta. So I think you got a steal here. I agree with Spencer.
Yeah, that was quite the thing. I think that's it for questions. And oh, Troy, come on, man! Everyone was saying to pick up Evans. Like, I mean, all the reports are saying he was going to start, and that's just the Rams, though.
You got Sean McVay.
That's just the Rams. Man, Troy's in a bad mood today. Olave is a mess and getting worse. Come on.
I'll take him. Houston Texans will take him if you guys.
If anything, it's Derek Carr. I mean, they're not really. It's just I don't know. Derek Carr. Me and Jim we just kind of agree to disagree on that. I definitely think Derek Carr is part of the problem.
He's part of it. I think the offensive line is the main problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just, but Carr's a veteran. I mean, he's got to be better at his improvisation, rolling out. Like, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Yeah, they're not putting him in a great situation. But if you're paying this dude the kind of money they're paying him, you expect more. You expect more than for him to be putting up numbers similar to what Andy Dalton was putting up last year.
The beige water pistol.
Yeah, I mean, it's pitiful. So, yeah, I mean, you might as well have Jameis Winston in there, which was funny when someone asked Jim about that, because Jim hates Andy Dalton. But when they brought up Jameis, he was like, oh, maybe they could try Jameis. And I was like, I'll still say Derek Carr is better than Jameis. But, I mean, if it gets too ugly, you never know. They might have to just say, screw it and make the switch.
I had to laugh.
Stupid if they did, because they paid Carr all that money.
Listening to Derry's Dimes last Friday on my way up to Dallas, I had to laugh when Jim pointed out that someone wanted to start Jake Haener already over Carr and Winston. I thought that was nuts.
Yeah, well, he's fresh back from suspension. What do they call him? The Riz King or whatever, the Drip King. He was all like swagged up for his media day pictures. So, Jake Haener. Yeah, he's don't think we'll see him this year unless things get really ugly. If we see Jake Haener, y'all, that means the Saints will have lost double-digit games. And if that's the case, then I think Gail Benson won't really have much choice but to fire Dennis Allen at that point.
I think they would almost clean house with the coaching staff. I think you would consider dumping some of the veterans. I mean, if it gets that ugly, Spencer, I don't know what I'll do with myself. It's gonna be a shock if things get that ugly with the schedule the Saints have.
Yeah, the schedule's gonna bail them out. I'm not panicking. I still think they win I'll say 8 games. I will still say 9, but I mean, 8 games. I mean, that's not great, but the NFC sucks. I mean, you never know. You might sneak a wild card. So.
Yep.
Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Nope. Just glad to be able to focus fully on football now. Now that Astros season's done, got CJ Stroud time. Get to buy in fully. I'm excited for that. But now looking forward to another solid week of fantasy. 5-2 in my main leagues, both of them. So I'm excited.
For sure, man. Yep, I'll have my rankings out tomorrow on bet.nola.com. Pelican season opener tomorrow. So, got a lot to look forward to. For Gabe Henderson, this has been Spencer the Guru Urquhart on the Fantasy Roundup presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Have a good one, everyone.